Welcome back, friends. Behind the Badge podcast here at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office in Rochester, New York. My name is Todd Baxter. I'm the Sheriff of Monroe County, and we do this show to show the deputies and the folks that are working with us in the Sheriff's Office what's behind the badge, but also who stands behind the badge. And a great friend of mine, our Monroe County Executive, Adam Bello, is here today. This is a very unique, special podcast. So, County Exec, thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
man.
Sheriff. It's great to be with you today.
Yeah.
That's good.
I got to give a little shout out to the bumper music leading in. It's Tommy Burnett from Iron Smoke out in Fairport.
Nice.
A great man, a great musician. He loaned that music to us free of charge,
That's
which
awesome.
is a perfect price.
Have you been out there at Iron Smoke? It's got a great facility there.
One too many times, probably. Yeah. I was actually out there this
They did a
weekend.
nice job.
One of my favorite bands, Trist, was playing out there. Old school reporter, music type days. Remember back?
Yeah.
You might be a little too young. He's good, reporter.
I know who that is.
I think I'm yeah, that's awesome. Right after Barry Manilow, right? So that's good. Well, thanks for joining us. I think it's just great for people to understand how these two entities in government work together and if you will, the camaraderie that we have. In my world, I'm public safety. You have a lot more worlds than that. You got a lot of worlds, whether it's mental health, DPWs, the airport. The list goes on and on. But in the world of public safety, you've been an ally. You've been a supporter. You've been a supporter of cops and police officers, and what we're trying to do in our vision here at the Sheriff's Office is been our lead. So I'll just start the whole thing out with saying thank you. You've been a supporter to our deputies, to our civilian staff. You've done all you could possibly do, and to take care of us.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. And I do have a lot of responsibilities, right? It's public health, public safety, the economics. We have parks, like you said, the airport, the zoo, all these things that we do. But at the end of the day, the way I look at the job too is number one responsibility has to be health and safety, because if you don't get the health and safety right, none of this other stuff works. So you got to invest in it. And over the last 4.5 years, it's been I'll throw it right back at you. You've been a great partner. Taught me a lot. I always like to go into things saying trying to understand to know what you don't know, right? And so you got to learn how you can be helpful. But I've also had a chance to work alongside of a lot of your deputies as well. Whether that's walking through the jail and meeting with jailers, or being out on the street. We did a ride along as well, so I could sort of see firsthand what our deputies are facing. They're just a really great group of men and women who are out there, and I got a lot of respect for them. Yeah,
I just left an event I was talking at, and it was. It was all about those deputies. It was all about the cops, right? The police officers around this county. I wear the Tony Mazurkowicz because I won't forget him. He's a friend of mine, but we can never forget what these people sacrifice in their families. And everybody knows, your brother. Yeah. He's a stellar cop in the Rochester Police Department, right? And they know him now because he's the public information officer. But I knew him when he wasn't the public information. He's a good police officer. He's a good cop, and so you come with that perspective. We're not always blessed to have that with that fake beard.
Although I look kind of grumpy sitting next to him there.
I think it was Deputy Chief Drayton whispered something in your ear or something like that. I don't know what's going on, but to have a county executive with law enforcement in their blood is important to us too. It doesn't mean we get everything I want, and it doesn't mean we don't pound down your door a lot, but we work together, and the fact that at least you get it. You jumped in a police car with the deputies and said, show me the ropes. What are we doing here?
Yeah, you get a different perspective. Yeah. And, you would appreciate this too. You know the danger that our deputies go through every day. And I used to be a town supervisor, and we had a police department, Irondequoit. It is probably the thing that keeps you up, the most is, God forbid when something happens out there. And, I remember just last year, I think it was, or the year before, I was at an MCC graduation ceremony because, again, that's one of my responsibilities, right, is education. And that's when that shooting took place at a restaurant out on Jefferson Road in Henrietta. And the thoughts that run through your head when you get that initial, I walked off the stage for a minute and just, tried to understand what happened, just because that those are your worst nightmares when things like that happen.
Yeah, and by the grace of God and good tactics, a bullet went by one of my deputies' heads. By inches, and they returned fire, and there was patrons all over the managers, but I go back, I got chills now because not only the heroics of those deputies walking in there, even the manager, we recognized him because he's literally almost crawling under tables to escort people out because he knew that the manager knew this was going to get bad really quick.
Bad. Yeah.
This guy was spiraling, and he had a gun in his hand, and heroics is, I love these cops. I absolutely adore cops. I love what we do for a living. No one else, you got to be a special person to be a firefighter or an EMT, right? Or
you really
soldier,
do.
yeah.
And then think about all that we ask of our police. I like I said, when I was a town supervisor, I did ride-alongs. I did with your deputies as well. And last fall we were in Henrietta, and you're asking your deputies to they have to negotiate out, try to figure out what's going on when there's a larceny. Maybe there wasn't a larceny. You go to mental health calls was a big part of our day, and they're trying to figure out what happened here, what's the conflict here, what's the family trouble here, and so you're a law enforcement officer, you're protecting people, you're holding people accountable. You're also a counselor. You're trying to work out family issues between people. It's a lot that we ask people. It's a broad range of things. We were walking through the woods looking for somebody who would run away at one point. It's like just the things that the spectrum of things that you have to deal with. We ask them is a lot.
And I brought you on the show not to talk about us, but
No.
I do have to bring up one more thing that you are doing and the county's doing to support us. Okay. No, it's utterly incredible. Yep. So you talked about that vicarious trauma. I've been a cop for 36 years. Yeah. I definitely got post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm not embarrassed to say that. I wish we get rid of the disorder word, right? Because when you do this type of work, your work and mine, 100%. Or a school teacher that sees, we absorb trauma for a living. And the wellness program, that's something you guys have been, when I say you guys, I'm talking about the county exec, plus the ledge. They've been 100% supportive of, let us take care of these deputies so they can do a better job on the road, but also the average age of death of a cop, 57 years old. Yep. From a 59-year-old male, that kind of annoys the hell out of me, right? So we got to do a better job taking care of ourselves, taking care of our families. And that's where wellness comes in. It's not cliche. I mean, we've invested money, resources into let's be proactive, leaning forward and going to these guys and building relationships, not waiting for a horrific incident and debrief from them. We got to do that.
Yeah, no, I think
it's been amazing. We've taken it to a whole new level. The county and the sheriff's office, taking care of the cops.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. That was a no-brainer. And actually, I take that back. This was an important program. I'm glad that you brought this to us as something to invest in. And I'll just so your listeners here in the audience understand too. And I know they innately understand this, but I had a conversation with a Rochester police officer a couple of years ago who. I said, how was your day today? And he just kind of looked at me and said, let me give you an idea how my day was. So they start with a negotiation between a parent and a child about going to school. And the police ended up getting called. And so there was family trouble, had to negotiate out through that. He then leaves to take a larceny report at a corner store, then has to go to the scene of a fatal car accident where someone was on a motorcycle, unfortunately was killed, and had to console that individual's mother on the scene while her child was deceased in the road, and then had to go do paperwork for 2 hours and somehow go home, engage with their family, their kids, do all the stuff that we all enjoy to do at home at night, and then go back and do it again the next day. And it's like you can definitely see where that can wear on. You can go through all the training, you can do all that in the world and be the best police officer in the world, but that's got to wear on you at some point, right? And it's impossible not to take your work home with you.
No, it's impossible not to absorb that for 30-some years. And you wonder why 10 years after retirement, and they work so hard for their retirement pension. It's a great pension that we get. They do. But if you're only living 10 years or less after, and that's the average, I tell recruits, I used to teach physical fitness for 20 years at the academy. Your job is to survive the career and then enjoy the retirement for as long as you can because you earn it. Right? So,
that's exactly
so we got to do much, and that's where we're doing the wellness program.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah.
But support of that. So really, I brought you on to ask you, what's the state of the county? So you got what, 4.5, 5 years in now? Or?
4.5 years. I tell you, I enjoy the job. I love it's different every day. You never know what you're going to get when you wake up. But I do believe things are running in the right direction. Yeah. There's always more work to do. But the economics are good. We've had a lot of just in the last 4 years alone, we've had over $4 billion worth of industry come into our county. Things are going $4 billion. And that's just through our industrial development agency. That doesn't count all the other companies that are coming here. Right. The economic recovery has been strong. Unemployment is low. The job numbers are going up. That's a good thing. We still face our challenges though around, public safety. We're still looking at cars. I'd love to talk a little bit about that too, and how we're working with young people, and health too. And that's another issue that actually we work together on a lot is with opioids. And talking about the addiction and overdoses. So there's a lot of work that we're still doing there. And the way I sort of segregate and think about the job and kind of compartmentalize sometimes, and then you got to connect it all, is we call them, colloquially around the office, our 4 pillars. It's public health, it's public safety, it's economics and workforce, and it's infrastructure. And those are really where we try to hone in our 4 key areas. I think that's what impacts most people's lives.
And like you said, you synergize all those efforts together so they're not competing.
Correct.
Or they're complementing and they're not repeating, redundancies. Right. And
that's exactly right.
And the word bureaucracy is like a negative word, but you are managing a bureaucracy, and that's what it's called. It doesn't have to be negative.
Yeah. And this is an interesting job that I hold because it's actually for a long time it's strictly an administrative role, right? We didn't have a county executive until I think 1980, 1981.
Trivia question, folks.
There you go. Yeah. Fun fact. That's neither fun and probably not a fact. It's probably 1982 or I don't remember which year, but I think I might be the 7th or the 9th county executive. Right. He actually used to be an appointed position, but. It's since emerged differently. It's more of a leadership role, but it still administers a government. And that's probably the hardest part of the job is figuring out how to connect what each of the departments does, right? And so the opioid crisis is a really good example, right? Because that is public health, addiction is a medical issue, and how do you connect, though, what the role of our clinicians who are out there, our impact team who are working with people in addiction, but how do we also coordinate that with the role that law enforcement plays when it comes to drugs and addiction? Right. How do you coordinate that with the work that you're doing with your team, where you're literally getting people into treatment, right. And things like that? And how do you deal with data? What we see up here on the screen. There's data that comes in from law enforcement, but then also our hospital systems have data, our county department, more than one department has data. So it's how do you coordinate it all to make sure that you're not duplicating efforts is a big part of the job.
Emphasize just data collection on overdose. Mm-hmm. We did a phenomenal job. I say we, law enforcement. We've created a new form. So every overdose we went to in Monroe County, we got all the police departments to agree to this, and we all submitted our data on overdoses, whether there was a death involved or a recovery. And that gave us a snapshot of real-time data that we were looking for, right? Yeah. And then we realized, this is after a couple of years of us just using that as our data points, that you nailed a couple. This is where the synergy, we're a countywide government. This is why we have county governments. Right. What are the fire departments going to? And the guys, Narcan and gone before we get there. So there's no police report. So we missed that data point. Yeah. The EMTs, what are they going to? The emergency rooms, people doing walk-in overdoses, right?
That's right.
So you took all that data, took ours and everybody else's, and formed this comprehensive package just on data collection of overdoses. And it gives you a much better picture of what's occurring in real time.
A much better picture. Yeah, and it's difficult to do because you got so many entities that collect this data, but it also underscored, there's 2 things. So one thing too is governments are sometimes hesitant to do things like this because it displays a big problem, right? Yeah. It's a right. But the second piece is that you have to do that because we know you just inherently know the problem is worse than what we think, right. Because you can measure it by how many fatalities that you have, but you're really never going to be able to even scratch the surface on how many overdoses you're going to have in a community because with the prevalence of Narcan, all those life-saving things we put out there, it's very difficult to know. So you're undercounting what the problem is. And so when the problem looks this big, 733 or 73 potential out there, it's more than that.
Yeah, and look how the numbers of just non-Hispanic, African-American, Black, if you will, flipped, right? Yep. Our data was showing, and it probably was, and this number is really flipping quick, but that real-time picture gives us an opportunity to go in certain communities, and now we're educating them deeper, getting, the hot spots. Where do we need our Narcan? That's
100%.
There better be Narcans in those hot spots, right?
Yeah.
And if not, let's get them there, and that's what we're doing as county government.
That's exactly right.
But I just emphasize the point you made. Even with all those, now we're collecting as comprehensive data as possible on overdoses. You and I are saying that 733 is extremely underrepresented, right?
Yeah,
that's how big this problem is.
It is. And to your point about making sure Narcan's out there, that's something new that we did a couple of years ago. Is we started putting Narcan boxes using this heat map. Yeah. We would go out. We talked to businesses. We have, there's barber shops, stores out there who all agreed to take Narcan boxes inside their store, and then we also looked at public areas, parks, things like that. And over the last couple of years, we put over 500 boxes. And so your listeners have probably seen them. I mean, I was actually walking my dog up at Durand Eastman the other day, and I saw one of our boxes up there. And they're full of Narcan. It's free. It's naloxone. That's the name of the drug. And it's free, and it's available to people. And over that program, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it was more than 16,000 doses over the last year or two have been distributed throughout the community. And I think that's a good thing. I think that just help get this life-saving medication into people's hands as in many ways as we can.
Absolutely. So I constantly push back on our public safety environment at a state level, right? I think we need to improve some laws. Very clear. Yep. There were 6 massive reforms in almost 3.5 years, and that shook up the whole system. That's just chaos right there. And you can manage through that, but that's a lot. And then some of the laws just need some fine tuning, right? That's what I say. And one in particular, Bello, right? The other one is raise the age. We created an environment of lawlessness. There's no doubt in my mind. We just need to pull back some consequences and immediate accountability and slow people down. So I'll give you an example of us working together. And really, this is the brainchild of the county executive office more than us, but we had a big gap in raise the age where we didn't, first of all, initially have beds. Right? New York State said, you now got to get all these 16, 17-year-olds out of jail. But there's
they have to go out of jail. They got to go to the Children's Detention Center, and there's no beds in the Children's Detention Center.
We're literally driving people to Long Island. And then going back the next day and picking them up. Talk about a recipe for disaster for a deputy. Driving some kid down
it was terrible.
I-81.
Sheriff, we had a weekend 2 or 3 years ago where literally I'm in my office with a giant whiteboard and we're trying to map out which counties. I got Erie County. I'm tracking where these kids are, which is crazy, right? Like I'm literally sitting there with
as a county executive, you're doing an op
trying
plan.
To track
real-time
where people are going,
where juveniles are.
Yeah.
And who didn't agree? Raise the age. All right, let's get 16 and 17-year-olds out of the Monroe County jail and not hanging out with the 35-year-old drug dealer or rapist, right, or whatever. Makes sense, but they never were because all in Rochester, where they're always segregated anyways, the young kids didn't touch the adults. But even with that being said, just slow the freak down. Don't create a law and say do it now, and there's no beds at the inn. Right? It's we've been out there twice as a sheriff's office, quelling riots, right? So you guys are building, thank God, and expanding, right? So that's a coming about. But where I was going to go with this whole conversation was, still we have a problem in our raise the age law that we are getting carloads, not an exaggeration, carloads, 7 deep of 14, 15, or 16-year-olds in stolen vehicles leading us on pursuits, and then giving appearance tickets. At 3 o'clock in the morning with no mom. Some moms just like, I'm done. Or some moms saying, I got 2 kids, I can't come get them. Or some moms, every one of those kids had a different environment in their house. And we're just releasing them on appearance tickets, just a recipe for disaster. Right. And what we found is we're arresting them for felony charges, and felony charges automatically, by our law, mandated, sent them home or sent them somewhere. We wish home sometimes. Right. And coming up with I'll let you explain your program, but actually sometimes we undercharge a misdemeanor because we can get them into your systems now, working together with probation and things like that, and get them to the Children's Detention Center and give them what your mom and dad called a timeout, right? At least give them a timeout. So why don't you go ahead? That was a brilliant idea. But I just want to emphasize, we're trying to work around silly laws sometimes.
We definitely got creative. That was a creative workaround. And no, you're absolutely right. I mean, at the end of the day, I think part of the problem is that, nobody really disagrees, right? Children should not be, in jail with adults, and no one should be in jail simply because they're poor, right? And I don't think anybody disagrees that. The problem isn't necessarily the thought behind the policy; it's the implementation. That's always where it goes wrong. And in this situation, you're right. One of the things we found was you're charging a juvenile with a felony level crime that they committed. Oftentimes that resulted in being released, but the misdemeanor associated with it was actually something that could be held. That's just an odd thing and took some working through. But at the end of the day, what we decided to do is this, because you're right. The problem was, especially when we're talking about young people, is that they were stealing. You get involved in something, stealing a car, something like that, and you get stopped. You'd get an appearance ticket. The appearance ticket could be for tomorrow. It could be for 2 weeks from now. And there's that period of time where they come in contact with law enforcement, and then the criminal justice system kicks in, where they're just right back out, able to do whatever it is they were doing. And there's no intervention. There's nothing changes.
That's
right?
a key word, intervention.
Yeah. And so what we did was we started this program called our JEDS program. And what the JEDS program did was better align probation with our police officers. And so that when a juvenile is arrested, involved in a crime, there can be this other level of intervention, where essentially if there's a dangerous situation here, there's a gun, there's something else there, the child can go to the Children's Detention Center, get their appearance ticket for the very next day to go to family court or whatever the appropriate court is to enter the system, or they can get an expedited appearance ticket for the next day and still end up going home, or they go home. But then the next piece of that, that's all new. Mm-hmm. And then the next piece of that is how do we fill that time then? Yeah. And so we do an intensive supervision program so that for the first 2 weeks after the arrest, they have a daily check-in with a probation officer. That probation officer is equipped to also align that family with other support systems. You know, the county has our Department of Human Services. Absolutely. We have the Department of Mental Health. We have all these, again, right, it's aligning your various departments. And so you can help to draw those pieces for those kids while we're waiting for the criminal justice system to kick in. And while we're doing that daily supervision, what we have found is that the recidivism rate for kids who are in the JEDS program has declined dramatically. Kids who are not in we call it our JEDS program. In the JEDS program, kids who are not in the JEDS program, we found in the 3 months before JEDS, the recidivism rate was about 32.5%. So that's about a third, right? We're going back out and committing a crime. During the first 2 weeks of JEDS, though, if you're part of the program, recidivism rate is 2%. The reoffense rate post the 2 weeks, 14%. That's half of what it was without it. So we've managed to bring the recidivism rate down. Last year, the governor was in town, had asked, how can they do more with the state with this program? And this program had gotten national attention as well. The United States Department of Justice had a write-up in their national newsletter about the program. It's great. It involves all law enforcement agencies, right? There's a big partnership. So we asked for more dollars to enhance it, and they did. So the state gave us another $1 million, and what we're going to be able to start doing now in the next couple of months is we're going to extend the stabilization period. So instead of doing 2 weeks after the arrest, we're going to extend it to 4. Yeah. And then again, evidence-based, we'll take a look at it and see how does that bring the number down. And the impact of that has been, too, would you see the recidivism rate going down, is that it did impact particularly car thefts. Well, car thefts are still too high, and I don't mean to, I don't want to imply, obviously, that we're not spiking, the ball here or anything like that, but we have seen a noticeable decline. So from January through I think April of last year, there were just over 1,600 car thefts. From January to April this year, it's 760. So it's been cut in half. So there's about half as many car thefts at this point this year as last year. And so when you talk to people and say, what's the difference? One of the differences is the way we're handling these juveniles.
Right. It's phenomenal that you mentioned, especially the stolen vehicles, and we've done some very intense details for stolen vehicles, undercover details, helicopters, airplanes. You think we're exaggerating what we put in the air to prevent the pursuits. And that we do the same thing in retail theft. And what we found with first of all, our retail thefts are being mirrored again across New York. That's pretty cool because Sergeant Bolton and all my good guys downstairs, they put together these incredible details. But where I was going with that, we run them for 3 days in a row. By day, people say cops can't prevent crime. I hear that cliche all the time. By day 3, the cops are bored in these details. Because the word is out and it's shut down. Yeah, and we'll wait a couple more weeks and run another one. Now we're starting to get away with our state secrets. We're starting to pulsate them, if you will, right? Because we can't do them 7 days a week, right? It's just too manpower intensive. But the idea is we shut down larcenies. We literally shut them down, but we can't ever sustain it. So the second part you mentioned is that intervention. So
it is.
Of all the people we grabbed, 128 last year on these larceny details, we offered every one of them services at the car door. And everyone that was getting appearance tickets took no service. We had mental health, we had addiction, it's all there. You need homes, you need a shelter. What do you need to stop committing larceny? Yep. And so that intervention that you're able to do now with the JEDS program,
the intervention is
shows
huge.
Again, we can definitely affect crime. There's no doubt. Cops,
and
but then what do you do with them? That intervention.
And in my view, that's where the laws need to be addressed as well, right? Is the consortium that you pulled together, I think, is absolutely spot on. You talk about a dangerousness standard. You're talking about giving judges the ability to hold people if they pose a threat to themselves or the public, and then the other issue is reoffenders, right? Yeah. It's the reoffense. That's what I think has got to be one of the more frustrating things for law enforcement in particular, because you do your job, right? We ask these deputies to do their jobs, and They do great. They investigate cases. They make an arrest, and then the person a lot of times goes back out and starts committing the same crime that they were investigated for before, and that's got to be so frustrating.
No, that's frustrating.
So that's got to be the cycle we break, and it happens. I seen it myself. I was 2 Christmases ago. I think could have been last Christmas. I don't remember. I was at the Emergency Operations Center. There's a big windstorm that I remember. So it's Christmas Eve. There it is. So it's Christmas Eve, and I'm finally driving home. I got to stop at and get some more Christmas presents. And I've been working all day, so I go to Target, and the cashier at checkout recognized who I was, and we were chatting. And as we were chatting, somebody walked right out the front door with a shopping cart overflowing. Not food. It was overflowing with like coffee pots and stuff like that. And I said, and I sort of looked there. There's a little like yelling about it, but the security didn't. There's nothing they could do. And the cashier said, I said, how often does that happen? She goes, more than you would think. And she goes, and how am I supposed to feel safe working here when that's happening? And that really struck.
For her, the cashier.
Yeah.
Not even a loss to the profit and loss statement, but
no,
your employees are going,
how do I feel safe?
How do I come to work?
Yeah, no, it's wild. And I saw, I had an opportunity to meet someone in a leadership position at Walgreens last month, and part of their global leadership of the company. And I said, what's your, I didn't even know that's who I was sitting next to when I asked him. And he told me what he did for a living. And I said, what's the biggest challenge, that you guys are facing as a company? It's theft. Yeah. And, you see that when you walk in, you see things locked up. And so, whatever creative things that we can come up with that are appropriate, that can help reduce recidivism and, and reduce that behavior is, I think, necessary.
And that's the part that frustrates me only from my standpoint. It shouldn't have to be creative. Judge is brilliant.
Right.
It's creative. It's doing what we're supposed to, but it's almost a work within. We do this a lot in law enforcement. All right, now if we could do this, we'll do that, and we adjust. Or you go to Home Depot right now. I shouldn't say that, but I was there last night, and it took me too long to check out because all the registers were closed and only 2 people. You couldn't self-check out anymore. You can't even self-check out.
Yeah.
Because the criminals are forcing it upon to change my lifestyle, and then the inflation rate on our poor people in this community, they're paying for the law. So you and I can afford it by the grace of God.
Right.
Because those prices are getting jacked up. They gotta.
Oh, that's absolutely part of the problem.
So the poorest people in our community, right? So
someone's paying,
clean,
right?
Just clean. That's all we're at. Just a clean legislative fix to this. Not this piecemeal. And we'll take anything we can get. Yep. But that's why that consortium is so powerful. I'm going to share one of my war stories. Yeah. So I'm at Target the other day, and whenever I'm driving by, I'm the sheriff, and I hear a larceny in progress come in, and I already seen a deputy in that parking lot a second ago. So I'm going to spin around and help him out with the apprehension. Right here's the sheriff, and by the time these guys were done shopping, the cartload, we had 7 deputies there.
Wow.
Right? We had 7 deputies there. That's how long they're in there shopping. And the intel's coming in from loss prevention saying they're in the back.
So for all that time, they're walking around.
They're walking around as calm as be, filling up the cart. And loss prevention says, by the way, they're in here 2 weeks ago. Or the last week they were in here. And they stole a bunch of computers, but we didn't call the police because we weren't able to identify them. So that was an unmarked data point, right? Yep. That's a grand larceny unreported. Yep. That's going on like people wouldn't even imagine. And then here's the kicker. So they come out and we set up this great tactical plan. Here's the sheriff, right? I'm staring one of the guys right in the face and going, we going left or right, right? I'm waiting for my foot chase, right? I literally ask him, we going left or right? Which way we're going? I'm good. Let's run. I look down, kind of like he's wearing flip-flops.
Oh, my gosh.
And it dawns on me, I'm like, they don't even dress for the party anymore. They don't care.
No.
He's wearing flip-flops to a larceny in progress.
He wasn't expected to be
He just committed one earlier,
a
week ago. He doesn't. Yeah. He's not running. Yeah. Arrest me, I don't care. Yeah. That's the mentality we've created. Well, you can't ignore that.
That's what I thought was a little shocking about what I saw myself was that it wasn't like, I don't know. We probably all seen or heard stories of somebody, might put something in their pockets, some food or something like that.
The door, right?
That's not what's happening here. It's like a large shopping cart just casually walking out the front door. And that's what I saw too. Like, I mentioned my ride along earlier. So one of our stops was Marshall's, and you go into the protection room and they're giving you all the reports, and I think we collected 4 that day. And but that's what it was. The pictures were clear. No one was covering their face either, and just walking out the front.
It's extremely underreported. That just showed that one store I was at. They were in here last week. We didn't call the police because we don't know who they are. Yeah. And we begged these guys, call the police, let us make the report. So we're going to finish up. We usually finish up with, we could go on for an hour and a half.
Oh my gosh.
You got a hard stop.
This is the best part of my day.
So this is, we usually do a thing called No Miranda Zone, but we're going to flip that. And this is going to be a quiz for the county executive. If you can name that voice.
Oh, gosh.
Name that voice.
Oh, I'm not good at this.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So no pressure.
That's
We can
like
bleep
that.
it out. If you get the wrong name, we won't embarrass you. We'll bleep it out.
It's like that show where the celebrities put the costume on and sing. My daughter
Or
loves
name
that.
tune
Okay.
and
Yeah.
name the tune. You ready?
Yeah.
All right.
This message is for Adam Bello. Adam, you are doing a wonderful job. We'd like to know when you are going to run.
Well,
for
thanks,
governor.
Mom. Yeah, that's Mom. Thank you, Mom.
Right. We got a couple more for you. Let's see if
right.
you're 1 for 1.
All right.
Pressure. We gave you a cell phone.
Hello, Adam. I'm trying to see if you can recognize who I am. I've changed my voice a little bit, but I think you will probably figure it out anyway.
Oh, my gosh. Don Eilhart? Wow. He's like a
That's
local
two-
celebrity.
That's 2
okay.
for 2. Not bad.
If you had the best interest of the people of Monroe County in mind, you would be running for president instead of county executive. Thank you.
Wait a minute. That's not my Uncle Gary, is it?
You're good, man.
Is
You're
it?
good.
Really? Oh, come on. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, we had help on this.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, I don't know how you got in touch
We
with
got time for a
him.
couple
He lives in
more.
Hello, county
Cincinnati.
executive. Wow, you're a difficult man to get a hold of. Hey, I need a few minutes of your time.
Chief
I gotta
Deputy
talk to you
Fowler.
about your car's
Only one
extended.
voice.
Oh, I'm good at this.
You're good, right? You were nervous.
Watch
Hey,
put my
I'm
wife on
pretty
it.
sure this is an easy voice to guess, but good luck with Sheriff Baxter and the podcast. Hopefully,
Captain Bello.
hopefully you
Yeah.
survive.
Good.
All right.
Have a great
yeah.
day.
I
That's
think
my
we got
brother.
1 or 2 more, and then we'll get you out of here. So you're batting 1,000.
All right. This is
You
good.
should probably quit.
County exec, I'm calling you back because I figured I've waited long enough for you to call about the next 5K. Look forward to the
Wow.
run.
Under Sheriff Brown.
No,
Very
we're making it
good.
Too soft.
All right.
All right. Last one,
Last
I think.
one.
These guys had a ball putting this together.
Adam, we spend most work days together driving throughout Monroe County, attending public events with you as you discuss issues facing our community. Before that, we work together to bring better pay and benefits to the dedicated members of the Monroe County Sheriff's Police Union.
That's Jason Eliotto.
Jason Eliotto.
There we go.
All right. We got
Wow, that was good.
All right. Last one. I
wait,
promise.
Hello, this message is for Adam Bello. I'm calling from the Irondequoit school system. You have a book that's overdue from 1998. We're encouraging everybody to return their books, or we're going to compute the daily fee and send you a bill. Thank you.
Oh, we were going 1,000.
Oh, no.
Love it. Love it. This is a good one.
That was
Yeah,
a really
that's
good one.
All right.
Oh, no. Who was that?
That was me.
That was you? Oh, stop it. You're sitting right in front of me. How did I miss that?
I threw you off with the Irondequoit.
You really threw me off because I'm
1998.
trying to figure out, okay,
You're
well.
more worried about the book fee.
How
Just
would you?
doing the
Yeah,
math.
I was sweating, man. I was sweating. No, I'm trying to figure out, okay, who was the principal when I was in high school? I'm like trying to figure out. I'm like going the way back.
That was your
machine.
year, right? You graduated? Yeah,
that's
we got the
right.
right year.
You got the right year, 1998. Yeah.
County exec. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for
thank you,
sharing a little
Sheriff.
bit, letting
This was
people know
fun.
who you are and what you do for us, and most importantly for us, from our standpoint, how you support police officers in our function in society, and that can't go unsung. Thank you.
Well, no, you're welcome, and I want to thank you for your partnership and working together. And obviously, I have the greatest respect in the world for you, your team, and all the men and women who are out there in the sheriff's department and all their roles. So, thank you.
God bless, brother. Thank you.